What's that? Medicine they give to senile people?
No, her hearing aid.
Her hearing aid.
Creature makeup. Damn good job.
Yeah.
He looks ugly as shit, and that's hard to beat the way he is. I look uglier than I even am usually. Sorry about that. Tough job. Sorry.
It started out as a normal day. The kids were up, and Rachel liked to use my bathroom because she liked to use my makeup. And the kids were in my bathroom and bedroom a lot in the mornings when they would be getting ready for school. That particular morning, Craig and Rachel were both in there, and we were joking around, and we did a lot of play acting in our home. And sometimes the kids would play act and take on the parental role, and I would be the child. And that day, Rachel happened to say to me, in her cute little way, well, Mom, you know, I just can't keep taking care of you like this. You know, you're going to have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet, blah, 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 blah. And so she just threw out that comment, well, I'm not always going to be around to take care of you, Mom. You're just going to have to learn to grow up, and that kind of thing. And we laughed about it, and Craig pitched in and talked about it, and then the kids left. They left for school. Rachel always drove Craig to school every morning.
We've been following up on the situation. It's happening in a suburban area right outside of Denver, town called Littleton, and the high school, Columbine High School there, where earlier today, a little after 11 o'clock in the morning, local time, mountain time this morning, students report that 2 individuals, school age, other high school student age, and possibly students at this school themselves, came in. They were wearing all black trench coats or long pipe coats and ski masks. They were very heavily armed, and they began shooting. The situation is still quite chaotic. There have been 14 injuries reported, one very serious one.
The average child spends 30 hours a week in front of the television. Let me ask you a question. If that statistic is true, where are our children getting their values? I want to tell you what's happening is they're getting their values from the media. They're getting their values from people that are emotionally unhealthy. They're getting their values from people that could care less about what the Bible has to say.
I've been in Denver since 1995, and I've noted in the last 3.5 years huge corporations moving in. The suburbs are widening. The median income is climbing. Unemployment is dropping. I mean, it's all technical. There are a large number of jobs available, which is bringing people in from Silicon Valley and California and such. Sun Microsystems, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, MCI. There are these gigantic international corporations that are all building their headquarters in Denver.
Within the last couple of years, it's rated as the second fastest growing city in the United States, and so we have quite an influx of new people coming into the area, and it's grown too fast, personally. Not much open space, as you can see in the homes. It's grown so fast that there's new streets being developed almost weekly, and if we get a call on one of them, our new maps aren't out, so it's kind of a scramble to find where we're going to get to the call.
As more and more people from a technical field have moved in, it seems that the attitudes of the city have become more and more conservative. They're coming in with their families, and you know, they want to keep their families safe from this world around them that is growing, you know, at an exponential rate. As people move out to the suburbs and build their gated communities, and driving through Denver, I mean, you can't take any major street across town without driving past one or more of them. As those go up, people think that because they built a fence around themselves that their problems have gone away, and all they've done is isolate their problems, and they refuse to look at them, so they grow quietly.
Kind of confusing. You see the nice homes, and people are prospering, they're doing well, and you just kind of wonder what people are thinking when things go on, such as what happened to Columbine. I think that's what's so confusing about it all. So.
You know what I hate? People who think they can forecast the weather. Like the other day, this punk I know was saying, yeah, tomorrow we're gonna get like 2 feet of snow in just a few hours.
It's a baby.
They were saying it's going to be the biggest snow in 10 years. Yeah, it'll be about minus 60 outside, too. And that day we get an inch of snow and it's 26 out. I feel like getting a baseball bat, breaking it over his head, and then stabbing him with a broken end. I live in Denver, and damn it, I would love to kill almost all of its residents. F***ing people with a rich, snobby attitude, thinking they're all high and mighty and just can come up and tell me what to do. For the rest of you, you all better fucking hide in your houses because I'm coming for everyone soon. And I will be armed to the fucking teeth and I will shoot and kill and I will fucking kill everything.
I did my normal school day. I go to bowling before school, and Eric and Dylan were on my bowling team, along with Nate Dykeman, and I went to bowling that day, and they weren't there. Eric and Dylan didn't show up, which was pretty uncanny for them. They usually were always there.
We wondered where Eric was, but we really didn't wonder that much because we always ditched class. So then we went to 4th hour, and Dylan wasn't there either. And Eric wasn't there either. They're both in that class. And so we were like, oh, they must have gone out to lunch or something. And so we sat down, we talked for a while, and when class was over, we went our separate ways. I went out for a cigarette, saw Eric, walked over to him, and I started cussing at him, saying how he was, like, being stupid. We had a huge test in philosophy that day. It was our final over Chinese philosophy. It's like half of our grade. It was huge. And he missed it. And so I was giving him crap about that. And, you know, he was like, it doesn't matter. I was like, what? He's like, Brooks, I like you now. Get out of here. Go home. And I said, whatever. And so I went off to finish my cigarette down to Polk and Pierce, where I always finish off my cigarette. And then I was sitting down there and heard the first couple of gunshots. And because there was a lot of construction going on right there, I didn't really give it any thought. Because it sounded like, you know, someone hammering nails. And then I heard an explosion and a shotgun go off.
Every day we'd usually go out past the soccer field and smoke a cigarette and then come back. That was about time when class started. So we were walking outside and we got about 20 feet from the door. And we saw Dylan, I think it was Dylan Klebold, running backwards, shooting at the skull, laughing and screaming, like yelling out things. Didn't really understand them, but we heard the gunshots and stuff, and then everything went into slow motion.
The only person I remember seeing was Rachel Scott. She was, you know, right next to me. She was shot before me by maybe a couple of seconds. They just kind of did the kind of sweep thing, I guess. One of those. I guess it was a fully automatic, so it's or a semi-automatic. I don't know, I guess I just fell back because I couldn't really move anything below here and muscles kind of relaxed, I guess.
Then I got shot in the foot, in my left foot, and that's like the only one I really felt. And then my right leg collapsed, so I fell over, and it was between that 2 seconds I got shot in the left knee and the right part of my chest also. That went through my lung. So then I kind of just rested my head against the ground and kind of lost consciousness for a little bit. I woke up, and then again, I don't know, it must have been like a minute or something, and kind of sensed that somebody was behind me, so I asked him for help, and that was, I'm guessing, Eric Harris, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll help you, and put the gun to my face and shot me.
The most deadly weapons that they used, without question, were the 12-gauge shotguns. The 12-gauge shotguns are very common guns. This is the type of shotgun that those killers used, except instead of having a factory-made one, they just chopped the barrels off, which is illegal, and they chopped the stocks off and then hid them beneath their coats. One was a lower quality 9mm. They call it a pistol, but it's really not. It's more of a mini assault weapon, what they call a Tech 9. A 9mm is a thing where you shoot somebody and the bullet basically stops. A shotgun will blow a hole all the way through somebody.
When he pulled the trigger, it was kind of like a sound wave, just almost silent, and I didn't feel it. All that happened was my head moved. I don't know if he was actually trying to help me or thinking that I was going to die anyway, so he was going to put me out of my misery, or he just wanted to shoot me again. At that point, I looked down, and there was a puddle of blood right by my face, and every time I exhaled, there's blood. I looked around in the ground in front of me, and there's pieces of my face and stuff, and then I kind of realized it was real.
The incident started at about 11:20, and the first ad hoc SWAT team went in there about a half an hour after that. What they were doing was a very methodical search. Once the SWAT team got into the school, they found bombs in such a fashion that they were concerned about the possibility of booby traps and ambush. So they needed to move very carefully. No SWAT team ever faced a situation like this before, and I think there were probably 3 or 4 times when the officers, either from the SWAT team or on the perimeter, exchanged fire with the suspects.
As we pulled through the high school parking lot, we noticed police officers with their guns trained to the second story of the school, behind cars, several students hiding behind cars. But we also noticed 4 patients out on the sidewalk, and searched to the right of our rescues, and there were no patients there. Came back to the left, found one young man that was obviously deceased, took a quick pulse on him, there was none. Went about 10 feet to my right, and that's where I found Lance Kirkland. I'd heard a pop from above me and glass breaking, and the police that were in the parking lot started returning fire.
Next time I woke up, I saw somebody, which turned out to be Monty Fleming, running past me, and I rolled over and raised my arm and asked him for help, and he picked me up.
I don't recall picking Lance up. I don't remember running with him. Once I got to the back of the rescue, I remember holding Lance in my arms and him holding his broken leg up beside his head, and he and I making eye contact. And I apologized to him and told him he was going to be all right. I do have a memory of the injuries when I rolled him over. His face was pretty well damaged, and just the eye contact that he and I made was a very moving experience. When I went to see him a couple days in the hospital, he and I made eye contact again, and I got goosebumps and had to look away.
Trying to come up.
We were hanging on the hopes that Cassie was hiding somewhere in a closet or a cabinet somewhere, but was alive. And as the hours dragged by, we began wishing that we could just hear that she was on an injured list, just some kind of indication that she was alive. But we got nothing.
It was just a weird sense of that waiting, just the whole feeling of heaviness in that school. Waiting, just desperately waiting that your kids were going to be found or accounted for. Well, there was one more busload that was supposed to come in. The remaining children who were locked away somewhere in the school that were the final ones to get out. And that busload came and went. And Rachel wasn't, of course, included in that group of kids. After being there for a while and sitting in that kind of an atmosphere, someone from the sheriff's department got up and told us that they needed us to fill out missing persons report. And this is when for me, the reality of this was really, it was really starting to set in that Rachel really might be a victim.
One of the bullets hit like like the bunch of nerve that, pretty much controls your whole arm. But all together, there's about 8. 2 hit vertebrae in my back and kind of just shattered them. And it kind of just, the shock, I guess, kind of just bruised the spinal cord. I can't move anything below, right in there somewhere. But I have felt a few things down below that. So that's good. I try not to think about it a whole lot. But, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense at all to me. Because I don't think I did anything bad to him. Maybe I accidentally did or something, didn't realize it, I don't know.
Many people are asking, why did this happen and where do we go from here? I want to preempt everything that I say today with the fact that we understand that no one, including the church, should stand and point the finger of blame. But we must all learn to accept responsibility as a church, as a community, and as a nation for where we are and for what is necessary to be able to turn around this country.
Rebel News. Homework sucks. Atlanta, Folis, Peltro, and Pazzi are complete. For those of you that don't know who they are the first 4 true pipe bombs created entirely from scratch by the rebels. Each is packed with powder that we got from fountains, mortar shells, and crackling balls. Now our only problem is to find a place that will be ground zero.
I guess they threw a bomb. I didn't think that was a bomb, but I guess it was. It kind of exploded. It didn't actually, didn't actually hurt me in any way, but, it distracted me enough so I could, come around the corner again and just started shooting.
Well, I knew they had a fascination for guns a little because I was a manager at the pizza place they worked at. And from when I knew them at school and everything, I had heard them talk a few times about going up shooting with some of their friends. And I never really took it as anything because a lot of boys and young men and everything have a fascination with guns. But the bombs and explosives, they were fascinating in the same way I was. Just fountains and fireworks and just watching things shoot up sparks and just things like that. The fireworks we could get a hold of quite easily, actually, because we go down to this one fireworks stand over the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years, I think. And we'd go down there and we'd help them close the store, close the stand in the tent and put all the fireworks away. And there's a whole bunch of leftover fireworks, fountains and things like that they didn't need because they were kind of broken or a little bit of gunpowder spilt out and they couldn't sell them, and so they'd give us all the extra boxes. And I think last year we almost got probably $3,000 to $4,000 worth of fireworks just given to us because we helped close up the tent. With almost $2,000 worth of fireworks, they can get a lot of gunpowder out of that. If you were to go onto the internet and type in pipe bomb, you could probably get around 500 to 5,000 pages on pipe bombs. And all you have to do is look on one of those pages and see how it says to make them. Just read the instructions and follow the instructions.
Well, all you people out there can just kiss my ass and die. From now on, I don't give a what almost any of you have to say, unless I respect you, which is highly unlikely. All I want to do is kill and injure as many of you as I can, especially a few people, like Brooks Brown. Eric I've known for 4 years, since the beginning of my freshman year, and we were really like an on and off relationship. We were like really good friends at first, like my freshman and sophomore year. And then like my junior year,
We had a huge falling out when he cracked my windshield, and I wanted him to pay for it, and he wouldn't, so I went and told his mom, and I told her a couple other things that he had been doing, because I was really upset with him. And we stopped talking. And then Dylan came to me about a couple months later after Eric and I stopped talking, and he told me, Brooks, here's a website I think you need to check out. And I was like, okay. He told me it was Eric, so I was like, all right. And I go on the website and had things I hate most, top 10 things I hate, and Brooks Brown was number 1. And I was like, great. And it had that he wanted to kill me, and it had my address and phone number on there in case anyone else wanted to, he said. And it's like, he'd pay him, and it was like all this messed up stuff. And so, you know, we kind of, I was really scared of him at that point.
We had a policeman over, showed him the webpage. We discussed it, what to do. We were worried that reporting him to the police would risk Brooks's life. These were not childhood threats. These were serious.
I was definitely worried about this kid. I knew he would do something. I never imagined anything like this. I thought he would go up to the school and shoot people, is what I thought. But this is such a big plan. Who could imagine this?
And all you have to do to understand Eric is you have to read those web pages, and there, it's obvious there's a problem. It's obvious there's something serious there, and the police certainly should have recognized that.
These were brought to our attention. Unfortunately, there's really very little regulation of what people put on the internet. So this was not a crime in Colorado. The information that was provided was forwarded to the school resource officer down at Columbine. So Deputy Gardner was aware of the information and did engage Harris in some conversation. However, there was nothing that alerted him to any particular problems.
We took it down to the, in Golden, the Jeffco Sheriff Department a couple of different times. The first time they misplaced it, the second time we talked to a bomb squad member. They took it seriously, so seriously that he called a bomb squad member in who showed us how to make pipe bombs, what they looked like, so that we could check for them around our house. And April 20th, when the murders happened, we checked again, so that was pretty interesting. The day the murders happened, we come home and the police are checking the park down at the end of the street for pipe bombs because they had set off, Eric and Dylan had set off 2 distraction bombs over here to draw the police away from the school as best we can figure out.
There are a total of about 60 devices that were recovered, and they ranged from large bombs which used propane tanks such as one would use on an outdoor barbecue, down to bombs made with small CO2 cartridges. They were rigged in various fashions. Some of them were incendiary, Molotov cocktails, if you will. Others were designed to explode and throw shrapnel around, which would cause injury. The 2 large bombs that were recovered from the cafeteria, the propane bombs, were apparently intended to cause a huge blast and destroy that area of the school as well as cause a great deal of personal injury. I think we can be very fortunate that following the directions or the type of materials that they used to construct these bombs were such that they did not go off with their intended effect. Bad bomb makers.
And we were just sitting there in the library, and then we heard, like, popping, and we didn't know what it was, and then I looked out the window, and there's this guy throwing, like, a pipe bomb at all the cars. And then he came in, they, like, started blowing up and shooting everyone in the cafeteria.
The 2 gunmen entered the library, and they started shooting at everybody. And I remember thinking, is this gonna be it? You know, am I gonna die today? You know, I went back to thinking about my family. Am I gonna see them again? And they came in and they shot around my section a lot.
They were having conversations with kids before they shot him. The gunman did ask 2 different people if they believed in God, and after they said yes, they both said yes, and then they shot him.
I was by Isaiah Scholes, I was by Cassie Bernal, I was by Kyle Velasquez, and they were just kind of like going down the line, and they were making fun of kids as they shot them. They were just, you know, shouting out discriminatory remarks. They were doing everything.
One of them turned and saw Isaiah,
And Isaiah was a black, he was African American, and he'd made some racial slurs against Isaiah and called the other one over, and then they shot Isaiah with a shotgun.
It was like they weren't even there, you know. I saw their faces, like, you know, I saw them as clear as day, like I'm talking to you. I saw their faces, and their eyes were just kind of like, they weren't there, you know. These boys just didn't know what they were doing, and they were, you know, shouting at people. They were saying this is the best day of my life, and, you know, just kind of laughing bitterly and stuff, and it was awful. You could just sense like a presence there almost.
I mean, they just were, I think, somewhat demonic, because just what they were saying and laughing, I mean, it's just...
Eric shot his nose, and he's like, oh man, I shot my nose off, you know. And I looked up and I saw his face, you know, pretty clearly, and his nose was all bloody. And you know, that just kind of let me know that they were out of control, you know. They didn't know what, and he was laughing. He didn't say, oh, it hurts, you know. Oh man, I need something. I mean, it was just kind of like, I shot my nose off, haha, you know. It wasn't like he even cared about it. And they came over to my table, and I saw Eric, and he peeked underneath my table, and I was just praying the whole time, please God, please God. And you know, I would say it's the most scaredest I've ever been, but I really had a peace about me, you know. And I think it's just because I had Jesus in my heart, you know. I'm not, even if I die, I'm going to live eternally and everything. And he came over to my table, peeked underneath, and I kind of saw his face just a little bit, but not really. It was kind of unclear. And they said something about me. I'm not sure what it was, but soon after they left. And so I think God really just protected me during that whole time. There's no doubt in my mind that there was an angel there or anything, because 5 people died around my table.
I think that the way I'm advancing the kingdom is just being a loyal friend and a good example to non-believers and also Christians. Just trying to not contradict myself and get rid of all hypocrisy, and just to live for Christ.
We know Cassie's in a better place and that she's happy, and God is taking care of her. And God is using what happened in that library that day for his good.
She knew when she was asked if she believed in God that if she were to say yes, it would be the end of her life here. And knowing that, she said yes, and it did end her life.
It's not just our church that has labeled Cassie as a martyr. It's been churches across the nation, people whom we've never even talked to before that have heard her story. The media has called her a martyr. I think for us, globally, they see Cassie as a hero and as a martyr for dying for her faith. But when you bring it back down to the personal level, we have the empty room to go to, and
it was just our little girl.
I cannot conceive of anyone with even a shred of conscience that could do that to our kids and to the teachers at the school. Because so many of the kids that were killed and injured were Christian kids, it just seems to me and Brad like Satan was truly at work in that library.
My ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear anything. But I prayed. I had asked God, right then, I had asked God to give me courage and take away my fear. And it really happened. As soon as I said that, I stabilized, and I was less fearful. That happened. I was probably the most calm person in there, more stable person in there because of that. And then I felt like God told me to get out of there. I mean, he did. He told me to get out of there. He said, get out of there.
I looked up and I saw Craig Scott, and I said something to him, and we just kind of like, it was kind of like just we knew what to do. We just kind of like ran out of the library after that, where we saw a cop car, and we got behind the cop car and just kind of waited until somebody could bring us to safety.
I climbed on top of my shed in the backyard with my binoculars, and we're close enough that I could see very clearly inside the school. I was able to see right in the library windows, and I was able to see the ATF personnel, the yellow ATF logo on the backs of their jackets, walking around in the library. You know, I presume they were looking for bombs and such. At that point, I didn't know that they were also stepping over our children. Pretty close.
I remember laying in bed that night. We didn't know for sure if Cassie was dead, if she was in a closet hiding injured somewhere. Where was she? And I remember laying in bed thinking, you know, she's just on the other side of the fence. Even if she's gone, I still wanted to go to her, and couldn't. And now, when we drive down the street, it's like the school looms at the top of the hill, and you see the library, and it makes you think back what happened there.
A lot of screaming, very good at screaming.
Yeah, you got that voice for the
scream. Every single time.
The mic is never necessary.
Never. Tickets. They did a great job with tickets. Props, Eric Fike and Anthony. Props for Eric.
The props were great.
Columbine Rebel is actually our school mascot. It was originated by a group that organized the opening of the school. And it's really supposed to be a revolutionary rebel. And it's been the mascot since the school opened its doors back in 1973.
I was kind of one of the founders of the trench coat group. The group that kind of hung out together. All of us had similar interests, and we all just kind of stuck together. Gothic would be the best word for my look. Very dark, very kind of dismal, you might say. Kind of, it's a look more towards death, what death would be like. Just very dark and dismal. I'd wear almost all dark clothing, black mostly, black beret, sunglasses all the time, and a trench coat. I'd wear a lot of jewelry, like necklaces with different symbols on them, and a lot of rings with skulls of that type.
This year, there was a second semester class, and it started after Christmas, and it was kind of cold here. It snows a lot, and they'd come in, and most people would wear, sports are big here, so they'd wear, Broncos jackets or another sports team, but they would wear these black trench coats, kind of like you see the police in, and they wore army boots, and it was cold, and then we thought maybe that's why they did it, is because it's cold, but they'd get inside and they wouldn't take them off, and the only reason they take their boots off is to put bowling shoes on. It's even when it started getting nicer, they still wore I know Dylan especially wore a trench coat most of the days that I saw him. They wore black boots and black pants and black shirts, and Dylan had a black beret that he wore backwards?
We were so far out from the normal circle and so diminished upon that we, in a sense, some of us thought that death was the way out. It's kind of a sad way to look at it, but some of them did, because some of the people I knew felt that death was a way to escape from the world of the harassment, and others of us took it as a way to cloak ourselves, because it was kind of like a shadow that you could hide in, and people were afraid of death, and people always are, and we weren't. We knew it would eventually come, and we were okay with that, and since we took safety in it, it helped us to feel better about ourselves and have people leave us alone more.
You know what I love? School. You know what I hate? Schoolwork. And then there are all you fitness heads saying like, yeah, I do 50 sit-ups and 25 push-ups each morning and run a mile every day and go to the gym and work out and just push yourself to be better, and you can achieve anything and set high goals and have great expectations and be happy and be kind and treat everyone equal and give to charity and help the poor and stop violence and drive safely and don't pollute. Good job. Take shorter showers and don't waste water.
They were treated very, very poorly by some of the student body. Some of the sports players that were extremely mean to him, both Eric and Dylan, and Eric especially because he was smaller. And people would shove him around and pick on him and just call him very derogatory names like faggot and treat him in a very, very downward way towards him. And since he didn't know really how to defend himself towards those, he let him do it. And Dylan didn't have as many problems because he was a bigger guy, and people kind of left him alone, but people still did pick on him and call him names and try and shove him around occasionally.
I've never experienced that. I've never seen that one. Never. I think it all goes back to that stereotype that, you know, big football players, you know, they think they're bigger than everybody, they own the halls, and they can just go push kids around, and I think I've never seen that once. Never.
I mean, as football players, they kind of may be intimidated by us in a way, or, you know, kind of scared of us, but maybe that we don't pick on them or any more than the other kids do. And I mean, even they pick on us, and, you know, it's like a, you know, a cycle.
Those kids are sick in the head to begin with, and everybody says it's been planned out for a year or whatever. I mean, so they've been sick for a year. You can't say that just because jocks get away with stuff means, okay, I guess I need to go to school and kill people. I mean, they just walked into school and were shooting people. If they wanted to kill a bunch of jocks, they would have came into the weight room in the morning, and there would have been 50 football players sitting there, sitting ducks, but they didn't. They just came into school and started shooting everybody.
Both of the suspects died of self-inflicted gunshot wounds, according to the coroner's report. They were side by side in the library. As to when they died, or if one died substantially before the other, there's no indication as to that.
A couple weeks before this happened, Sue and I met at the school after a meeting about graduation and how the parents were to handle themselves. And Sue and I stayed afterwards and talked for 2 hours, and we talked mostly about Dylan and how well he was doing and how he was going off to college and how he was going to major in computer science and how happy he was. When I went over there right away because I knew that they were friends, and I knew it was Eric Harris, and I knew that they still ran around together. I didn't know how he would be involved, but certainly he could have been involved. So I went over there because I knew they had no family, and I knew my kids were okay. I went up there just to be with them and support them until they heard about Dylan. They hadn't heard about Dylan yet. And so I called my husband at home, and it was quite difficult because they live in a valley where the cell phones wouldn't work, and we had a battery on a portable phone that was going dead, and we could only make a few calls trying to save the power. And I called my husband, and my son answered, Brooks answered, and I said, Brooks, have you heard anything? And he said, Mom, it's Dylan. And I said, are you sure it's Dylan, or are you just guessing that? Are they saying it, or what? And he said, Mom, they printed his name on the TV. It's Dylan. So everybody was listening to me. We were, in fact, in the front area outside the house at that time, and even the detective was listening, and so they knew I just said it. It's Dylan. So it was just quiet, disbelief, quiet. And we just sat there for a while. We didn't know what to do. They're sad. They cry a lot. Just trying trying to get through it. They want to know the world to know that they did the best they could. They cared for their son. They loved their son. They were good parents. These were good parents. I know they were. I know them. That's why I connected with them. She was a nurturer. That's why her and I were close. These were good parents.
America, love it or leave it. All you racists, and if you think I'm a hypocrite, come here so I can kill you. Assholes in America who burn our flags and disgrace my land, get out. And to you assholes in Iraq and Iran and all those other little pieces of desert lands who hate us, shut up and die. We will kick your ass if you try to with us, or at least I will.
I think a war zone, when people put on their camouflage and have their weapons and are in the military, they expect to go into the jungle or the bush or the war zone and engage the enemy. In a suburban high school setting, you don't expect to be engaged in combat. I think the mindset of child on child within a suburban school setting, that's something completely unnatural. That's well beyond war. It's urban terrorism, possibly.
I don't think that America will ever give up its guns, and I don't think that anything can be done to force it, because you can't enforce something like that with 250 million people. You can't go door to door and collect guns. People will still have them. There will become a black market.
Eric getting turned down for the Marines was a big problem. He tried to enlist in the Marines, and we have heard different stories on why he was turned down by the Marines, but they said that it was because he misrepresented on his application that he was on Luvox, which is a psychotropic drug of some kind, and it's like Prozac, I think. And therefore, Eric's dream of joining the Marines was gone. He knew that Dylan was going to go to college, and we think that was the catalyst, that his best friend, his soulmate, the kid he talked to all the time, was going to Arizona to college, and he's not going into the Marines, and we think that's what, actually set this off.
Our teenagers are left from the age of 14 on to live their own lives. Their parents work. Their parents have little interaction with what they do. They have the television to take care of them. There's no such thing as psychotherapy anymore. All teenagers have problems. They have emotional issues that need to be addressed. The de facto response, at least in our country, is to feed them drugs that burn out core things in your brain that are still developing. The problems still exist. The problems are the fact that kids are kids. Kids need to be paid attention to. Kids need to be loved. I know that parents have to work, and I know that life is hard. But I think that for the majority, our children are neglected. They're ignored. They're left to feel like they have no value, and they fight for attention in any way that they can, even negative attention.
Because you know why? They don't love themselves. So therefore they express it by trying to hurt someone else. And in turn, they end up hurting themselves, and they never have felt the arms of a father. They never have felt that love of a father when young men turn violent. And so we must understand love and self-esteem. Now let me say this again. I'm not standing up here judging or pointing the finger of blame. I'm simply preaching a message today to help us understand how important the gift of love is.
They shot nice kids and kids they liked, and they shot them in cold blood and at random.
And actually, Rachel Scott. Dylan loved Rachel Scott. She was a wonderful girl. Brooke said that he had helped her with her homework or something recently, and he liked her. Everyone liked Rachel, yet she was shot.
Wonderful.
This was a hate crime. Hate took over. I don't think they saw who they were shooting. I think they were just shooting in a rage.
I think they're in hell, Eric and Dylan. I don't know if it's for eternity or just until they learn the lesson. I don't know how it works down there, but I'm sorry that they put themselves in this position.